Thank you all for having me. I know it's the end of the day, so I will not take up too much of your time, but I greatly appreciate the opportunity. Steve's been a friend for a while, and I really love what Sid's created, and it's an honor to be here. Just to share a little bit more about what we do, BevForce is a boutique recruitment and staffing firm that specializes in hiring strategies and organizational designs with entrepreneurs in the beverage space. So we work with lots of importers that want to bring products to the U.S. and figure out how to build out their organizational infrastructure and how to build a business behind the brand. We work with a lot of local manufacturers, and we work with a lot of global wine and spirits companies too that are really looking to scale their business. One thing is crystal clear. Is that attracting talent to your organization is so critical to the growth of your business. There's lots of entrepreneurs that have, great concepts, great products, great marketing, but it's all about putting the right pieces in place to scale your business. It's all about the human beings. And, you guys, I think, have taken a really big step. For those of you that are here, right here, at this conference, you're probably here because you want to meet a lot of great people. And there's a lot of great mentors out there and a lot of people that have successfully built brands or are going through similar challenges and deal with a lot of the issues that you're dealing with. So it's all about getting together and actually sharing knowledge and experience. And there's so many great mentors in this industry that love to give back, which I think is hugely, hugely powerful. So we work with companies of all sizes, and it's really awesome. Sometimes it's companies that their product's not even available in the market, and sometimes, they've just gone through an exit and they want to do something new. And those are really exciting things. There's a lot of interesting people in this business. Entrepreneurs, a lot of people here are entrepreneurs. Let me ask you a question. How many of you guys here actually have an employee here in the United States yet that are actually selling your product? And how many of you are just looking to bring your product into the United States? Okay, all right. So, from my experience, building out organizational design and infrastructure for your company is critically important because like all these other panelists we're talking about and everyone that's presented, and I was here for a short time, a lot of it's really about the relationship and having smart people that know the market. Really is. You have an amazing product, but you need to navigate the market, and there's 50 states across the country, and there's control states, and there's open states, and there's on-premise, and there's off-premise, and there's national accounts, and there's marketing. So as we look to work with entrepreneurs, not from a staffing and recruiting perspective, but just from like a career therapy perspective, to find out what all the challenges are, it really starts from one core principle, and it's really, what are your strengths as an entrepreneur? Where do you sit? And what should you be doing to sprinkle the most magic on your business so you can be impactful? If you're a manufacturer or you're a winemaker, you're probably on the production, operations, supply chain, logistics side. If you're in sales and marketing, you should probably sit on that and work on sales and distribution and building the brand. If you're really good at fundraising, that's what you should probably be doing. But you always want to make sure that you're looking at 4 key tenets of your business: sales, marketing, finance, and operations, and being open enough as an entrepreneur to the vulnerabilities and making sure that you're building around it. Okay, cool. We have about 50 people in our company, BevForce. It started in 2007. I used to do what you guys do. I used to have a rum company, and there was no one else doing this. There was no one else that was dedicated specifically, that had built a national platform for entrepreneurs to connect with thought leaders in the industry to help bring their vision to life, to help build their brands, to connect emotionally with consumers, because you have to have a really impactful relationship for them to trust you enough to put your product in their body. There was no one doing this, so we built this. And everyone's got a different vision. Everyone's got a different vision, mission, growth strategy. But the reality is you guys have to really know what that is. Like, if you can't clearly articulate outside of your brand message what it is that you're building as a company, it's so difficult for other people that potentially will join your company or support your company to get on board and to buy into that philosophy and help you build your dream. Because I can tell you this for sure. There is not one brand out there that I know of that successfully built, grew, established itself as an industry leader, or went through a liquidity event or an exit with one person. It does not happen. But usually the idea starts with one person. So the question is, what do you need, and how do you get the right people around you? So a clear understanding of where you are and where you're headed, I think is really important. And I think that is something that you have to be very cognizant of when you're actually hiring team. Now, this is an organizational flowchart if you just built a Deep Eddy vodka and sold it to Heaven Hill. Or if you are Palm Bay, or you're Deutsch, or you're William Grant, or you're Proximo, this is the dream, right? This is a mid-sized company. This is a company that's probably, probably scaling 20, 30, maybe 40,000 cases, doing really well. This is where it starts. This is really it. This is the beginning, and you can't ever get intimidated by it because this is where all companies begin. And if you are the CEO or you're the co-founder, you got to realize you're right there in the middle. So I kind of talked about sitting on one side or the other, sales, marketing, finance, ops. Figure out what you're really good at and make sure you're putting the right people around you. And that does not mean go hire a bunch of heavyweights right away. That's not necessarily the answer. There's probably a lot of people in this room that can help you from an advisory perspective or a consultative perspective, or have cocktails with you, or talk to other entrepreneurs that have built brands. What I can tell you is for sure, any entrepreneur that's built a brand successfully, that's an icon in this industry, they had a lot of people help them. And they were able to ask for help, and they actually like to give back. So there's lots of ways that you can engage them and put them around you so you have answers to a lot of tricky questions so you can avoid the landmines because it's a very complicated landscape. So identifying your strengths, bring in experts. As you're hiring, it's so easy because a lot of entrepreneurs do this, especially they start a concept and like, whoever will come work for me, let's just do it. We're going to figure it out. We're going to roll up our sleeves and we're just going to make it happen. Well, clearly that mentality has to exist or nothing will happen. However, you have to make sure that you're also hiring on skill set or core competency. Otherwise, people are not set up for success. If you hire someone, you expect them to manage, your distributor relationships in the Northeast and they've never done it, ever, and you expect them to do it successfully, you're setting them up for failure. It doesn't mean people can't figure it out, but if you haven't done it and you don't have the time to coach them because you're fundraising or you're dealing with contract manufacturing, supply chain logistics, cost of goods, good luck, because they become the face of your brand. So I guess the point that I want to make is make sure you're clearly defining roles before you bring people in so you actually know what you're hiring for, because it's very easy to fall for someone's personality. They could be great, but they're not going to be set up for success because they're not going to be able to deliver the initiative that you need them to deliver. And so these are just basic core principles for growing any company. But I think it's really important because we get so excited and we move so fast. And once you're down that road and you introduce that person to the market, or they're responsible for your brand marketing or social, it's really hard to change then. So you want to make sure you're super thoughtful. One of the other things that's really interesting is scheduling and conducting interviews. A lot of it's like, let me get to know you. I just want to learn about you. And then they sit down with your partner, tell me about you. I just want to know about you. And they go through these 3 rounds of the same questions. And you're not actually interviewing them for skill set or experience or dividing and conquering. You're just having conversations. And salespeople are really good at conversations. They're really good at interviewing. So the point is you look to build your company, make sure if you're hiring in marketing or in sales or finance or operations, there's a qualitative piece and there's a quantitative piece, and you're held accountable for that, and your other team members are, so you're able to really scorecard things and look at it and evaluate fairly after you interview 10 people, because you won't remember the first person once you get to the 9th interview. There's a very good book you guys can read if anyone's interested in it. It's actually, a lot of my client partners read it. It's called Top Grading Talent, and it's amazing. Top Grading Talent, awesome. It's so good. And it just teaches you this basic principle of evaluating. Another thing that I think is really important is, I would say that a lot of entrepreneurs have this syndrome of, hey, you're lucky to have a job. You're lucky to work for me. And the reality is that you're lucky to have really good people just as well. It works both ways. And people want to work for a company they're super passionate about. If they're signing up to build your dream and bring your vision to life, they have to dedicate their lives to do it. So it's not just about a job. It's about them understanding how you're going to grow this, and more importantly, what the growth trajectory and succession plan and career development plan looks like for them. Why should they stay with your company? What is so beneficial about your organization? So if another competitor comes and knocks on their door, once they realize that's the best sales rep in the LA market or an amazing marketing manager, if they offer them $10,000 more, because they will, why aren't they going to leave your company? Why wouldn't they? And it's because you've created a path and because you've created a positive company culture where people want to stay. They want to be a part of it because they believe in it, and it's an amazing place to work, and they believe in you. So it's not about, oh, you're lucky to have a job. Well, yeah, everyone's lucky to have a job, but you're lucky to have someone who can do a really good job as well. And so I think that's just, kind of like a basic human respect thing that really pays off. Create and stick to a budget. Everyone's got a budget. Totally get it. No one should run out of here tomorrow and hire 8 people. You just shouldn't do it. It's not in my best interest to tell you that, but you shouldn't do it. You guys should be very careful, and you should have a budget. But what you got to realize is building a brand from 0 to 10 million in revenue is a much different skill set than 10 to 50. It is. It doesn't mean those people can't come along for the ride, but getting that brand to 30,000 cases, that's the really, really, really hard work. That is throwing cases on your shoulder on a Sunday afternoon. That is being in work with, ride with 4 days a week. That is doing whatever you got to do, staff trainings 4 days a week. Getting it from 30 to 200, it's a different skill set. So you have to realize, I do have a budget and I have to stick with that budget. It's very important, especially for those of you that are fundraising. I imagine there's some fundraising going on here, right? You're dealing with family offices, you're dealing with private equity, you got to look at valuation of your company. You got to stick to it, but it is much better to put together an organizational design hiring plan to hire 10 people at $100,000 and then hire 8 at $80,000, then come in over budget. Because then you have to go back to your investors and say you didn't even know how to manage your SG&A and your head count. You got to know about your head count, and you got to know how much they cost because you got to budget. Because if you have to go back and you got to ask for more money just to hire people, guess who takes the dilution and loses credibility? You guys do. So it's very, very, very important, and a lot of spirits companies are always raising capital. Always. That's okay, but just make sure you're very thoughtful about budgeting and you realize the budget you should have. So if anyone ever wants to talk about that, it's an important thing. Keeping your team lean, I think, is actually really, really, really important. Don't overhire. You shouldn't. You'll reach those inflection points, but look 6 months out, look a year out. Think about, when I launch a new market, what do I need to support the market? Just because you get to a market and someone tells you need 3 ambassadors right away because you just launched, doesn't mean that's part of your plan. So you guys got to stick to your plan. I mean, yes, you have a great wine, or yes, you have a great spirit, but you actually have a business that you're trying to run. So the more that you can forecast and look at those landmines, the better job you can do at preparing to say, in this region, I know what this is going to look like. I know what my ARR will look like in a year and a half. Then I can go plug into another market. So these are thoughtful decisions. So I know that seems crazy to some people that are just working on a label right now or working with a distiller to come up with a flavor profile. But there are people that will help you with that. There are people that do that in this industry that have been through these experiences. So I think that's all about tapping into community, which this, I think, is the beginning of a great community. There's probably a lot of people here that can do that. Compensation packages and benefits. I never tell anyone how much money to spend. But what I will tell you is figure out what fair market is for your size company. You don't have to go pay what a company that sells 2 million cases of vodka pays if you're a small importer with 1 employee. But you should be very clear about what a small importer with 1 employee should pay, and just make sure you're competitive. And another thing is, it's very tough for a lot of people to understand that are building a business at an early stage, but like commission-only structures are really tough. They're really tough because these people still have to live, and they still have to put a lot of time and a lot of energy into gaining traction and credibility for a new brand, and it's hard to do that for free for 3 to 6 months. Most importantly, it's hard to keep them engaged because if they're really good, someone's going to come knock on their shoulder and offer them a salary. So this is also a protective measure for you all as entrepreneurs as well. I'm not saying overpay. but make sure you understand what fair market comp kind of looks like, so at least you guys are in a place where you can be competitive and attract the right human beings to join the company. What role does equity play? Well, equity plays a very big role in almost any startup now. I don't care if you are a startup mezcal company, if you're a rye whiskey company, or if you're a craft beer company. Everyone does equity, profits, interest, incentive units. Everyone does. Now, if you don't, that's okay, but that shouldn't replace base salary, bonus. If there's not a bonus and upside for someone, there is no motivation or incentive for them to sell more product. A base salary is to survive. An incentive and a bonus is for them to drive your business forward. And, you know, a lot of people that are in sales, they have cars. Unless they're in New York, they take subways. But most markets, they have cars. They have to pay for gas. So these are things that you want to build into your budget, and try not to make it emotional. Like, what do you mean I have to give this person a car allowance? That's crazy. They have their own car. Well, yeah, but if that's the mode of transportation to visit accounts, it is what it is. It just is what it is. That's how the industry works. So you guys just want to make sure that you're in the clear and you kind of understand so you can navigate and have good conversations. Now, someone might take a little less money if there's more equity and more upside. There is a way to protect yourself as investors. When you give someone equity, it doesn't mean you just give them 5 points of your company or half point of a company. You know, there are vesting schedules. You can have a 4-year vesting schedule with annual cliffs. After 1 year, they get a quarter. After 2 years, they get a half, and so on, so on. 4 years, they're fully vested. So if they don't work out, it's not like they own a piece of the company, but I'll tell you what, that really does prevent people from looking over their shoulder, and they feel like they're a part of something. And that's pride of ownership. And I think it's a really important thing. I mean, we see it all the time. When do you upgrade? I think you upgrade when you realize that you can start attracting a different level of talent. It's very hard early stage to bring in, you know, a head of sales who ran White Rock before they sold. Like that's really tough. But if you actually reach a point where someone says, wait a minute, this is the next big thing. When Deep Eddy brought in a gentleman to be president to scale that took a while to gain traction, but then they knew proof of concepts here. Now it's all about scale. At that point, when you realize that it's time to take your business to a different level, that's when you have to start having different conversations. But a lot of those people that were there at the beginning will be part of it. That can be great for them as well. But I think you guys have to look at certain stages and levels of the business. So I talked about providing fair market compensation. Developing a healthy, positive company culture is like something that gets overlooked, but I think it's becoming more and more relevant, like across the universe. I mean, it's just companies want people to work in a happy environment where they feel like they're a part of something that's bigger than just a job. And a lot of that's about communication. It really is. And it's making sure that you value people that are coming into your organization. You give them growth opportunities. You offer training and development. If you have a spirits company or wine company, let them go take a SOM certification class. You know, let them go take sales training class. Let them go take a winemaking class. Let them go take a bartender examination class. I mean, you know, let them do what they want to do and support them, because if you support that $800 you spend will create such loyalty and make them feel like they're actually part of a real company, and that's what you are, you know? So these don't need to be expensive things, sending people back to go get their MBA, but this is like continuing education certifications that people, you'd be so surprised, people value it like in such a huge way. We just hired a career coach to come into our organization. We have about 54 people that work at BevForce between our New York office and California office. And we just hired a career coach to come in for all of our managers, like 10, 11 of them. It's awesome. It is awesome. And the accountability, the career development, the confidence boost, the way they own it, I mean, it is so good. So these are things like really good companies really think about stuff like this. And I'm not saying you start when you're just bringing your Mal back to the US, but you start thinking about planning. And if you start thinking about it, you will build, it usually happens. That's the thing. If you plan, it probably will happen. Conducting employee reviews. There are so many companies that do not do reviews. It's just you're doing a good job or you're not doing a good job. It's pretty time consuming, actually. But I will tell you, if people don't actually get feedback to know where they can improve or where they're doing really well, it's really hard for them to focus. It's really hard for them to understand where the growth opportunity is and where they need to pay their attention. And one of the things that a lot of clients, a lot of partners, the brands that you guys know, the brands that you consume that are on back bars and wine lists, a lot of them are starting to do 360 reviews where you're not just reviewing someone that works for you, they'll review the manager. And they let them know how the manager's managing. And I got to tell you what, there is no better way to have your finger on your pulse of your business than understanding what every employee in your company thinks about your company. I mean, they will tell you. If you ask them over coffee, they might not tell you. If you do a review, they're going to write it down. It's amazing. We do it, and it's full transparency. And in this world of cocktail menus and wine lists and distributor GSMs and all the noise, the reality is under all that, it's people that are following you and leading you. And you have to know why they're following you and why they want to be led by you. And you'll understand where the holes are. And so something really, really, really recommended. I think it's amazing. Avoiding common mistakes. Having advisors we talked about. Building an advisory board. I'm not saying a board of directors. If you're not raising capital, you don't probably need a board of directors because they have votes. And, if you are raising capital, you will have a board of directors. But having an advisory board is critically important. And that's not having a shiny object to just say this really famous person is on my board because I'm putting it in my pitch deck. That is actually saying this really famous person is on my board because they'll have coffee with me once a month and give me advice. They'll actually help me make decisions. So when you structure a board, you want to look at it functionally just like your business. You want to have someone that's great with sales and distribution that's done it. You want to have someone that's great with marketing and brand development that's done it. You want to have someone that's great with finance, accounting, and fundraising that's done it. And you want to have someone that's great with production, manufacturing, supply chain, logistics that's done it. Now, you might want someone with e-com because Drizzly's real. So you start to look at a lot of these, you look at how you would run a company and having someone in each function of your business that you can lean on, when the reality is at the end of the day, your wife or your husband probably doesn't want to talk about it all the time. Your friends are probably sick of hearing about it, but you have real issues as an entrepreneur. You have to be this big, strong, confident person running this business. And the reality is a lot of times it's your first time, you don't know what you're doing. You just don't know how to do it. So you have to be able to ask people, and you have to be able to lean on them and trust people that will give you advice. And that's what building a board is all about. That is the key to having a board. So I would highly recommend it. Keep growth at a steady pace. Expanding too quickly. Like being in 50 states is not the answer. It's just not. Then you got to travel to 50 states and spend money in 50 states and learn 50 markets and then hire people and focus. Proof of concept is critical. I will tell you, if you're ever looking at a strategic to invest in your business, whether it's private equity or it's a potential acquirer of your brand, they would much rather you see you in 5 markets with amazing velocity in ACV opposed to 20 markets with mediocre sell-through. Because you're selling the upside. You're not selling that I'm everywhere. Anyone can get distribution if you have a relationship, and it's a lot of hard work. I'm not saying it's easy, but that's not the credibility of the brand. The credibility of the brand is the fact that it's connecting with consumers and it's moving. So it's much better to do 5 states, 7 states, get it right, and then you have the opportunity to sell in the store. You're saying, look, there's another 45 states we could do this in. Can you imagine that? 5,000 states for another 5,000 cases, another 45 states? That's a lot. So you want to be disciplined and get it right. And then when you're ready, have a model that you can duplicate or replicate. Treat your team with respect is just a basic human principle, but make them feel valued. Say thank you to your team, because trust me, we get calls. We know if employees are not being treated fairly. We have the largest career platform in the beverage industry of hundreds of thousands of people. When a bunch of people start calling and they're miserable, it's probably because they're not being treated with respect. If you just do that and you make them feel valued and you're honest with them, chances are they're going to stick around and they'll go through the rocky times with you too. They will. They'll go through it if you let them know there's rocky times and why this is happening and how they play a role in future success. Hire people that are smarter in certain areas, I think is really great. Like as a CEO, you just might not be the best person to manage, sales and distribution. You might not be the one who should be managing the contract manufacturer. Own it. Bring someone else in that can. You're still the founder. You're still the CEO. You still have more ownership probably than anyone else if you've managed it properly. And so bring people in that can help you grow. If you surround yourself with amazing talent, you will have an amazing company. Brands change and evolve. Packages change and evolve. They change and evolve and get to a really healthy place because there's people making those decisions. So if you understand the value of bringing in really smart people to help you do that, you can accomplish amazing things. And I would say the last thing is just like really protect yourself with great legal support. Like when it comes to equity, when it comes to co-founders, vesting, everything. Make sure you have a really good attorney, an amazing attorney. There's a really good attorney locally. He does. There's a lot of them. There's a lot of great attorneys. So I would highly recommend just making sure that you're protected so you're thinking about your business properly. And other than that, just it's your passion. To bring people in that are super passionate about what you're doing. So that's really all I have for you guys. Sorry about the mishap with the deck, but I hope that was helpful.